Yes, guys, and welcome to another episode of Flat Cap Hero Talk, a live show this time where I'm going to be giving my January signings, maybe a few summer signings as well, just because I can't contain myself. I get a bit too excited about it. But I will also be joined by my partner in crime, someone who I do absolutely worship and adore when it comes to these kind of conversations, especially. It is Darius from Paxton Road. Darius, how you keeping?
I'm doing great, mate. Honestly, I've been waiting to do this show for a long time, and it's been quite a while since I've been on Flat Cap. So let's get it going. Let's not
Let's get
even
it
waste
going.
time. But no, it's great to be with you again, mate. Honestly, it's always going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Love it, love it, love the energy as well. Calvin, just want to welcome a few people. Calvin saying if we look at it in a realistic way, I think Kessie and Kulishevsky is the best we can hope for. I mean, that's pretty great things to hope for, I would say. I wouldn't be too reluctant about that, Calvin, but I definitely see where you're coming from. He says I would love to sell Winks and Doherty in the January transfer window as well. Love to hear that and love to see that. Kuva99, the comedian of the Harris Army, saying signed Conte, forced Joe Lewis out for $2 billion. And then, geez, maybe not too early for this kind of stuff, but I really love it, Kuba. I really do love it. And also, Cody Mack is in the building. He's just saying hello to both of us. Big yourself up, Cody Mack. Thanks for joining us. But without further ado, I am going to be starting my January transfer signings, everybody. And I am going to be going, maybe some of them might be quite familiar to you from maybe the scout reports. And the first one I'm going for in this January window. And by the way, I am going for a very Levy budget here. I'm especially in the January window. I'm not asking too much of him, not really asking too much of Paratici either, really. But I do trust Paratici to make the right signings. I've gone with Julian Alvarez, that Boca, River Plate, excuse me, striker / kind of right winger. He can play across the forward line. He's only on transfer mark valued at £13.5 million. We saw kind of his highlight reactions as well on this channel. So please check out that scout report after this one. You know what? I'm not maybe entirely convinced by the guy, but at the same time, we are kind of going for a bit more budget signings. There's a lot going on at River Plate that seems to be quite enjoyable, especially the football over there, Darius. And, he seems to be someone that could be that next up and coming to a degree, kind of Sergio Aguero. A lot of the Argentinians, they are very, very deadly finishers, and they come from very good finishing schools, you might say, and a lot of brilliant strikers before them. So I have confidence that he might be able to make that big step up to the European game, if not the Premier League. I mean, Julian Alvarez, have you ever heard of him? And also, if he is around 13.5 million, I feel like then maybe considering Levy would probably negotiate it down as well as Paratici, probably could bring him in maybe January window for 15, 17 million pounds. Wouldn't be too
Can I ask,
hard.
was he right or left footed?
I think he's right footed.
Cool. That's I've never heard of him. You know what? I'm always happy to come on this channel because, like I said, I'm learning things just as much as everybody else in the comments are. So no, this is really good for me.
This one is recommended by Para Miguel Escobardo, someone who's really, really near and dear to this channel. And as well, he said that it's someone that we should take a look at. I took a look at him. He seems to be highly rated, seems to be up and coming. He's actually on fire at the moment as well, down over in Argentina. So I would say maybe we just take the shot now as well. Let him join Christian Romero and Gio Lo Celso, build a bit of a Argentinian foundation. I mean, who couldn't go wrong with that? You can't go wrong with that. But Darius, if you were to maybe, is there anybody in the forward line that you've gone for? Maybe that backup striker that so many people are obsessed with?
I actually do have a couple, actually. It's very funny you said backup striker and right winger because that was the first protocol that I went to as well. My choice is a little bit more familiar to some people. I went for Karim Adeyemi at RB Salzburg just because he is absolutely ridiculous. He is absolutely ridiculous. I think in the Champions League, he won something like 4 penalties and scored 2, or so I'm thinking missed 2 and scored 2. It's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing, and he's actually doing pretty well as well. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist in the Champions League. He's got 8 goals and 1 assist in 10 games in the Austrian Bundesliga as well. So he can find the back of the net. He's rapid. Have you seen his sprints? He's so quick.
Something's in the water over at RB Salzburg as well. When you would say with some of these forward forward strikers, just anybody in the forward line there, they just churn out these guys, year after year.
I mean, you get rid of Haaland and you still got Daka waiting in the ranks. So it's like, and you get rid of Szoboszlai and you have players like Adeyemi who's coming in. So it's pretty ridiculous, to be fair. And it says on transfer marks he's only ranked at about 18 million pounds, or he's only priced about 18 million pounds. So I know he's probably worth a bit more than that since he's just got into the Germany team now and he's doing pretty well in the Champions League. But as a right winger, left footed, I mean, if we were looking at Madueke and other players like that, he seems pretty ideal. And I think that sort of the goal scoring numbers that really turned my head, because we need to get a few more goals from somewhere, and it doesn't seem like the midfield are going to score that many goals. So another winger to score goals, that's sort of the range I was looking at. Isn't got
he
10
under
goals.
21 as well?
He's 19 years old, mate.
Yeah, so that's
He's
what I
19.
know. Basically, I would say, just to validate this brilliant signing that Darius is going for, I think it's, to my knowledge, maybe apart from Florian Wirtz, despite them maybe playing very different positions, I mean, they're practically the best German talents out there.
He's my favorite German. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but Florian Wirtz is my favorite German talent at the moment. Maybe him and Musiala, because now Musiala is officially German as well. But those two are just next level.
Wow, that makes me excited as well. Yeah, and I keep forgetting about that he's actually, declared for the German national side again. The talent that now maybe Germany is having at their disposal, especially the under 23, under 21 talent, is getting a bit ridiculous. And they might have a ridiculous team in the future to come to replace some of the old guard, you might say. But unless maybe I think the Adeyemi signing is actually much better to a degree than maybe my Julian Alvarez signing, and to a degree, if Levy could take that shot, especially Paratici, we know that he wants to sign those younger players. So when you think about it as well, I would say, a lot of us, I mean, I know, especially me and Darius, we do like to go for a bit of the younger talent, and, Paratici is the same way. Paratici is the same way. And so hopefully, to a degree, some of these could be somewhat realistic, I would say. But I am going to move on now to my next kind of January signing, and it is going to be maybe kind of an option or the two. And I really want to gauge on what you think about this, because again, very, very cheap signings. One of them is just, everybody seems to know about him, is Wataru Endo. He's just had practically one of the best seasons any center defensive mid could really even have. He was practically the best CDM in Europe's top 5 leagues almost last season with Stuttgart. He's only valued around £9 million, and I think that's because he's actually 28 years old. He's kind of a bit of a late bloomer, you might say. And the reason why I feel like we could go for him is, while everybody has them on his radar, everybody knows that he had such a spectacular season, and he's still performing quite well. To a degree, you would think, like, if he wants to have any sort of, career maybe outside of the Bundesliga, or even just for a bigger side, might have to be sooner rather than later. So I would say if we maybe doubled that, paid something like around £18 million, £17 million, I don't really see maybe Stuttgart, saying no, because again, he's only going to get a bit older. He has, like, honestly, like, he's like, basically he is the Japanese N'Golo Kante. That's what a lot of people say about him. He's almost like a Duracell, kind of batteries inside of him that just keep on going and going. His contract expires in 2024, so that's why I kind of say you would probably have to double the price for him. But everybody, if you were to check out his stats from last season, or even just check out, maybe I think it was Bundesliga released, like, kind of to a degree, like the unsung heroes, of the league last season. And he was top of the list. And as well, I think a lot of people that have heard of him would really highly rate him. And this would be kind of as a backup CDM. I'm going to kind of sign 2 different people for this January window. I think it's a bit hard to sign 3 unless we had a huge departure. Then maybe we could sign 3, but I'm going to go for a backup striker that obviously a lot of us feel like we need, and then as well as a backup center defensive mid. And, just to maybe ease the burden, I might say, on Skippy a bit. And to a degree, I think Wataru Endo would be a brilliant, maybe the perfect one, I would say, actually, the perfect one. But it's a bit unrealistic, considering I feel like a lot of people that are kind of, in Paratici's business are well aware of him, and there might be a reason why it was very difficult to prize him away from Stuttgart last season. They might be holding out for a big transfer fee, and knowing us, that might not happen. But then again, his value is still so low for some reason. But Jefferson Lerma is where I want to get your maybe thoughts on. And to a degree, it's because back in the day, but when Bournemouth were in the Premier League, I kind of rated the guy. I actually thought he wasn't too bad. Of course, he went to Bournemouth for a huge fee at the time. I think it was around like 22 million. And, maybe hasn't necessarily lived up to that fee, but I kind of really always liked him and admired him. I think if I can even remember correctly, he had some spectacular goals actually at certain stage as well. And there was also a period when he was actually, to a degree, their best player, kind of on fire for them as well. His contract's ending in 2023. Which is, a bit sooner than you think. And if we went maybe for 15 million, 16 million to a championship club, I think we could bring him in. But what do you think of these 2 backup CDMs? And is a backup CDM needed for you?
Me and you, we do think very similar. I didn't go for a CDM. I went for a center mid sort of as a backup, just because
more versatile.
I don't really rate the center mids that we've got in our team, apart from maybe Ndombele, Lo Celso, if he's on it, and then obviously Højbjerg and Skippy were DMs. But for me, yeah, out of these two, Lerma's a good option. I really don't really remember Lerma that well, but I always remember him being decent and sort of just, he's almost is like Endo in the sense that you know what you're going to get. They'll work hard, they'll get around, they'll intercept, and they will probably put in a 7, 8 out of 10 most games. And that's what I value from centre mids. For me, if you've got a workman-like centre midfield like that, who won't make that many mistakes, you allow like other players to sort of be a little bit more risk-taking, like Ndombele. So I would go for both of them. Me personally, Endo last season was I absolutely loved watching Stuttgart last season. Like particularly him and Wamangituka were the two that stood out for me, and Koulibaly as well. He was unbelievable. Those three players really stood out for me in Stuttgart. And it's just, is there going to be competition, and are we that smart? Maybe with Paratici we are now. So that actually might change.
Are we even that smart? Yeah, that's also the question.
It's difficult, but honestly, I've gone for similar players, to be fair. In all fairness, the two that I chose between was, and this is more because of situations as opposed to sort of because they are both talented players, these two, and again they're a lot more known than Endo and Lerma, but these two are sort of the situations that they're in at their clubs it's one where you can take advantage of, and it's sort of prime for Paratici to sort of take advantage of. I had Hussein was one of them, just because I don't know if he's actually signed a contract yet, and you could put him on, even if we talk about summer, you could put him on a pre-contract in January, or you could sign him for a very small fee and bring him in straight away. And then the other person I went for was Weston McKennie in Juventus, obviously, because he's barely playing at the moment, and there's a real player in there, and sort of I don't know what his contract length is like either. But if you've got somebody who's not playing, and I know that Allegri really doesn't have him in his plans either, then I think he mentioned that to him sort of during pre-season that he's not really in his plans, and I think you could probably get him out of Juventus. And I know Juventus sort of financially have to sort of pay for Locatelli in the future and other players, and I know they're looking to maybe sell a big player as well. So I've heard the De Ligt might be on the way out, so you never know what can happen with Juventus. So I just think that those two centre midfielders who are, like I said, maybe a little bit more robust going forward, because I still believe, like I said, my main sort of vision for that team was goals. We need to get more goals in that team, because what we're like sort of chance creation wise, and that may be down to the manager, but at the same time, if you've got players who can score goals, then you will always stand a chance of sort of, even if you're playing a defensive football, if you've got sort of a centre mid who can come in and maybe even take penalties or just take a free kick, or like Alwa, who's got a good long shot, or McKennie who can get into the box late, they can always score goals in whatever system, whatever situation. So those are the two players that I chose between, but don't know who you would choose. I would probably
see Alwar as kind of like a Christian Eriksen replacement, kind of another thing that's been on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. There's another player, obviously, for our summer options, which I chose, which I think is a much better Christian Eriksen replacement, and can probably do even more. But yeah, he probably is more of an attacking midfielder, but I think he can play centre mid as well. He has played centre mid for Lyon for so long. So, but maybe McKennie fits Nuno's system, and sort of he will work harder for Nuno in that centre mid. So maybe he's the better option for our system. But I think they're both good in their own sense, obviously. Both. The
McKennie situation is so funny, because I'd never wanted to give it any sort of credit, because they just paid like the fee for him, and that's what's so bizarre is they bought him in, and then I think it was a loan transfer, originally, they brought him in for free to pay it off later, and I think it was around, if I'm not mistaken, £30 million. Maybe I'm a bit off there, but it was a decently expensive fee that they brought him in for. So it's just kind of like, why are there all these rumors from very, very valid sources coming out about, him, being unsettled, him wanting to leave, because he's honestly a fantastic player, Weston McKennie, and it just surprised me. And then when they brought in Locatelli, probably added a bit more fuel to that kind of a rumor, because they're to a degree the same position. And
pretty much.
Just, it is shocking to me, because I felt like, he was the perfect signing for Juve. I remember a lot of people rated that as being one of their best signings as well, from last season. And just is shocking to me why that is the case, that it's not like they don't rate him over there. It's just the idea that he's just not in his plans, and I don't really know what Weston has done wrong.
Nothing.
Exactly.
I can't imagine what he's done wrong. And to be fair, like you said, it was a Paratici signing originally anyway, so I think that the convincing of Weston McKennie, he was at Schalke before, no offense to Schalke, but they were not in the best of situations when he was there, and he was probably one of their best players. So I think that he would while he has obviously tasted Champions League and being at a big club like Juventus haven't been great in the past years that he's been there. So I think he would probably not even appreciate, but sort of welcome a move to Tottenham as long as you can guarantee him the minutes. And for me, one of Ali and Winks has to sort of be either looking to leave this January or in the summer, because I just don't see what they're bringing that other players might not bring. And like I said, as bad as this sounds, and I don't want to get onto those two guys all the time, but those are the two players which I see has the most value that we would want to sell. So if you can get rid of one of them for maybe even crazy something like £30 million and bring in a player like Weston McKennie really cheap, and then you could potentially get another player on a free, because there's a lot of free agents going to be available this summer, then I think that's probably the better option for the team. But you don't know what's going to happen. These are two options that these big clubs could come and take him in. Like I said, you could offer big wages to Alwar in January, and he could go to Barcelona or Real Madrid in the summer. So you never know what's going to happen.
I think that's really well dissected there, really well broken down. Dark Sun G, just want to welcome a few people and also maybe just recap maybe what we've just spoken about. But Dark Sun G says, hey guys, or hey Jack, did you hear that Sun scored 2 goals for Korea? I did see that one against Iran, and I am, Dark Sun G, maybe like I said, and I think you were also well aware, I mean, Iran's front line is actually quite impressive when you think about it, with Sardar Azmoun, Taremi, as well as Yahan Bash, that kind of Brighton kind of flop, I believe, at one stage. It's not a bad front line, and I think you guys handled it quite well, marshaled it quite well, probably thanks to Kim Min-jae, Dark Sun G, probably thanks to him. But yeah, I think Sonny is on fire. And again, he's Mr. All Reliable. He's becoming Mr. Reliable for Tottenham. But big yourself up, Dark Sun G. Thanks for joining us. Para Miguel Escobedo. I am going to recap maybe one of the signings that you very much want to see. And hopefully you had a good day of work as well, brother. But Cody Mack is also saying, appreciate the ball knowledge, guys. I only have time to look into players we get heavily winked with. So cheers for research. Kaniki and Darius, Paratici and Hitchin, you're clear. I would like to think that maybe Darius and I know a bit more than Hitchin. With Paratici, I would like to think that maybe we would just be kind of the guys that, would be kind of helping Paratici out with, maybe a bit of the research. We'd help him out with, maybe just bringing him, the espresso. I do have a few barista skills on me as well. I could bring him his espresso in the morning and then just say, by the way, I was looking up this guy on FB Ref, Paratici. He'd probably give me 5 minutes of his time and then, ignore me for the rest of the day. But, maybe we can get in that office. Maybe we can get in that office, Cody. But also Dermot is in the building saying, big up, guys. Really appreciate you. Nick, who's a huge saint to me and to David at the Irish Hotspur. Big yourself up, he's saying morning. He's also on New York time. Dark Sun G says, I hope Newcastle goes for easy pass in Delhi in January. Yeah, that would be brilliant, honestly. Just let them take our refuge. Golden Cock saying, hi all, I'm supposed to be doing things, but hey, Jack and Darius are on, so time for a break. Yeah, take that break, take that lunch break, that bit of that late lunch, as I used to say in Berlin, a European lunch, it lasts for at least an hour. But Dark Sun G also saying, Asman was erased by Kim Min-jae. We need to go for him in the summer. Yeah, Kim Min-jae again. Dark Sun G, I promise the part 2 of that scout report is coming out soon. That guy is called the Monster for a reason. Have you heard of Kim Min-jae, by the way, Darius?
When we were first linked with him, I sort of kind of, how I feel with Tomiyasu, I sort of almost thought we were going to sign him, and I did so much research on him and the size of that guy and sort of the assurance that he has in his own ability. He's absolutely fearful. He reminds me of Van Dijk, and I know a lot of people were comparing him to that. Yeah.
That's fair.
It's that presence. It's the presence that he has. Sort of, he's almost guarantees that he's going to get the ball 100% of the time, and that confidence to do that leads to actually being able to do that. And he isn't very old either, so he's only going to get better. And I think that as crazy as it is, somebody like Son could probably convince him to come to Spurs if there was sort of to be a bidding war or sort of any sort of competition, because I heard that Juventus were linked to him as well back when we were linked to him. But he's an absolute beast. Like that's the only way you can describe him, is that he's just a monster. Like his nickname says, he is the monster.
Yeah, he is the monster, and I think it's for a reason. Like they said, he erased him. But
I've lost Jack. I'm going to carry on, guys. I'm going to give you my next option. Let me get my notes up because I do have my next option.
Sorry about that.
You're back. I was going to go for my
function.
I was going to go for my option.
I have a setting where I swipe to the right sometimes, and it makes me actually back up.
Oh my God, you'll be scared then.
I am back. It's very, very annoying function, I will say. But my first one, I am going to bring these back up. Everybody, do apologize. And I'm going to bring up just to recap some of these points from earlier.
Oh yeah.
Just want to say Wataru Endo and Jefferson Lerma would be my backup CDMs if I were to sign this summer, or sorry, excuse me, this January transfer window. Again, very, very cheap signings, very, very cheap signings in this case. And I really would say both of them, I think, could do a job. As we said, we know they can just do basically to a degree, maybe not as well, but to a degree what Skippy has been doing for us. And I think it'd be good competition for him. And then that backup striker that we've all been talking about, Miguel Escobedo, I've been going for Julian Alvarez because not only does he fit that Levy budget, but as well as he kind of can play across the front line, which I think is very, very useful. I've kind of said if we wanted an out-and-out striker, just a normal number 9, kind of like that Carlos Vinicius signing, that would be just way too expensive in my taste. I said, we could have gone for Chris the Goat Wood. But then I would personally rather go, if I really were being smart about it, I personally would rather go for someone that can, to a degree, play across the front line. And I think that would be Julian Alvarez for me. But Miguel Escobedo, hopefully you like that. Darius, I know he went for, maybe you can just remind us who was your backup striker and your center mids?
Well, my right winger / striker was Karim Adeyemi from Salzburg. There was also one striker who I've watched over 2 international breaks now. I've not actually watched him play in the MLS, but I've watched him play over 2 international breaks for Poland. He's a guy called Adam Buksa, I think his name is, striker. And he's 25, so he's not young. But, I mean, he's played San Marino in a couple of other clubs, but he finishes so well. And I just thought, like, he's valued at, like, £3 million. Like, if you're desperate, you could just chuck £3 million at him and see what happens. I think he scored, like, 5 goals in 3 or 2 international appearances for Poland. So he's one to look out for. I don't know if he's ever going to sort of get a big move, but every time I watch him play for Poland, when he comes on for Lewandowski, he's always scoring goals. So that's Adam Buksa is one to look out for. But my main one was Adeyemi, Karim Adeyemi. For me, he's going to be the next one out of Salzburg that probably will blow up and be the next. Obviously there's been so many now, but it's almost we're expecting the next one to come out of the Red Bull contingency. So yeah, Karim Adeyemi for me, he's 10 goals, I think 10 goals and 3 assists in 13 games in the Champions League and the league. So
you could cook an egg on him. He's so on fire right now. I would say ridiculous. The guy is, again, he's only 19 like Darius, so expertly researched as well. I mean, the guy Adeyemi, I would say alongside equal to Florian Wirtz is just practically the best German talent that's coming out at the moment. And as we touched before, seems like there's some sort of like forward line factory going on at RB Salzburg. I just don't get it, how they can replace Haaland. And then they had Wang Hee-chan for a season. Then they had Patson Daka. And then now they're going with Adeyemi. I mean, it's getting a bit stupid at this rate, especially if they were to sell Adeyemi, like maybe Darius is saying, quite soon. I would think actually maybe a good shout would just say is maybe with Adeyemi, could be kind of like that Erling Haaland signing to a degree where, I do believe Dortmund bought him in January. Maybe not a bad shout, Darius. Maybe not a bad shout.
I just think that it was sort of with teams like Salzburg and Leipzig and almost Dortmund to an extent, they're okay with selling players, maybe not to the price that you expect, because they know that they're going to be able to make their money back. They're not trying to sort of trap these players. They want these players to have successful careers as much as they want to, make a profit. And you can see that because they've let some players go for absolutely ridiculous prices. I mean, some of the players that you could have signed, Naby Keita being one of them, Mane. There's so many examples of players that they've gotten rid of, and you can sort of just in my opinion, you take a risk. If somebody's worth 20 million max, you take a risk, and if he's scoring goals in the Champions League and threatening teams like that, then I can't see how he doesn't do well in any other league. So yeah, like you said, January, before anybody else gets him, get in there and bed him into the squad now, and like you said, maybe next season he'll be on fire even more. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that one.
I think your center mids again were Alwar and then potentially Weston McKinney. Excuse me.
They were the 2 options, yeah. And I think that's probably like in terms of, like I said, situational situations for those 2 players are just no game. Well, obviously Weston McKinney's getting no game time, and Alwar basically was getting shipped out last season or last transfer window because they didn't want him at Lyon. So why not take advantage,
Definitely. And Jameson is in the building also. He's saying this keeps getting recommended to him, this channel. Hopefully the algorithm is doing you well, Jameson. Hopefully you've been enjoying it. And then Cody Mack saying Darius is ready for the technical issues. He is. He certainly is. Derek Hutchinson, welcome to the building. Big yourself up as well, Derek Hutchinson. Thank you for joining us. And then, Adeyemi is also being validated by Para Miguel Escobardo here. So big yourself up. And Killian Kenny saying, big up, Jack. Will Spurs sign Dortmund star Haaland? I don't think so. It seems like he's going to Man City, but we will be signing maybe someone a bit similar, as we were just discussing, Killian, Adeyemi, who came from the same parent club before as Haaland is coming from RB Salzburg, and to a degree we could sign him in the exact same window that Dortmund signed Haaland, and then to a degree I think that could all work out. But we are going to now break down the summer signings, and mine is going to be starting with the Christian Eriksen replacement, the Delhi replacement. It is going to be Daichi Kamada. We did do a scout report on him. I really rate the guy. I think he's around 25, 26. I think he's, kind of ready for that step up. He had a fantastic season last season with Eintracht Frankfurt. He's showing, that he still can hold his own. The reason why I would actually go for him, even potentially in the January window, but I decided to do the summer, is because Frankfurt are not doing well this season. I mean, Oliver Glasner, apart from that last, the defeat that they gave Bayern, I would say it really was more down to Kevin Trapp than anything. I mean, the guy was just the guy could see things in slow motion.
Yeah, I remember that. That was insane. I think he made one off the bar, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he made one off the bar. Absolutely insane save.
He had everything from Neuer-like saves to, David De Gea foot saves. It was just, the guy was, I think, and it was kind of a snatch and grab performance. So I didn't really felt like it said too much about Bayern, that kind of loss. I think it just said a lot, about maybe the fact that, Frankfurt really needed that win. Like they really did. They're still sitting practically at the bottom of the table in the Bundesliga, which is not where they like to be. I'll tell you that. I mean, there's maybe a bit of pressure might be on Glasner, but Daichi Kamada, let's say they don't finish in Europe this season, I would say he's probably out the door. I would say he probably wants to be out the door. He probably wants to be playing in Europe, if he has another good season. And to a degree as well, he's not surrounded by great players. They did not really replace Andre Silva in my likes. Whoever striker they brought in, I've seen a few games of theirs. He looks pretty garbage to me, actually. Doesn't seem to do very much with the chances Kamada gives. But in my opinion, I think apart from the free kicks, I think Daichi Kamada is an Eriksen and Dele kind of like player. He's kind of like Dele Alli, where he actually plays very close to the striker and is able to just run up and down the pitch and track back as well, like Dele did back in 2016-17. But as well, though, he kind of has that Eriksen just vision, that Eriksen intelligence, as well. That guy who can just see things before they happen, that guy that can just see, maybe the pass before the pass. And it just seems like he has a world-class kind of football intelligence and kind of spatial awareness. So, I mean, Darius, do you have maybe in that summer signing some sort of Eriksen Christian kind of replacement, some Dele replacement in there?
Well, this absolute superstar was on my list. He was on my list, and I felt like I talk about him too much, so I didn't want to talk about him here. And I'm happy you did bring him up because I don't need to say anything else. He said everything that I wanted to say about him because I just think he's unbelievable. And I'll never forget that sort of Kamada, Kostic, Silva, Jovic front four. They were ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Very underrated.
The only other thing I want to add on just to his sort of his skill set is his dribbling ability and sort of his close control. I've seen him dribble past 2 or 3 players quite easily, and everything else you mentioned, I wholeheartedly agree with. So I think that, and I didn't even realize he's only got 2 years left, or almost a year left on his contract. So that is, I mean, why not go for him? I think he's absolutely amazing. I actually also went for a creative player. I went for one that I think we could get and one that I think there's no chance we're going to get. I just want to shout him out. The one I want to just shout out was Christopher Nkunku, just because.
Ooh, man after my own heart. I love him.
If you could get him, you solve all your issues that you need in center attacking mid, left wing, second striker, right wing. Guy is, in my opinion, one of the best players in the world at the moment.
I like him more than Dani Olmo as well, and I loved Dani Olmo, but I think he's even better than Dani Olmo.
Yeah, I think Dani Olmo, and that's another good shout as well, because I think Dani Olmo is a good player as well, really good player. But there's something about Christopher Nkunku. I mean, in his first flipping season at RB Leipzig, he got 5 goals and 15 assists, and that was in his first season. And now I think he's on 9 goals this season. I think he got a hat-trick against Man City, obviously, then got 2 goals and an assist the next game, then got another brace the next game, and then scored another goal in the Champions League, all following that hat-trick against Man City. So he's just scoring now, getting assists. His dead balls, his set pieces are absolutely insane. Corners, free kicks,
That's right.
whatever
His
you
set piece
want.
ability.
It's I think on FBref, I think it's in sort of like in the 98th percentile for sort of dead ball, creating chances from dead ball
Wow.
situations. So top
Yeah, he's a
2%.
good corner
So
taker. Yeah.
he's just, I can't really say what he's bad at. I don't really know what he's bad at. He's an
That's what I
absolutely
was thinking
ridiculous
about.
player. He's an absolutely ridiculous player, and that's who I would go for. But I'm hearing City and Chelsea and Real Madrid are linked with him, and when you hear those names, Tottenham just don't have any chance of signing a player like him. So the one I went for in that attacking mid role, because I did go for I chose 2 attacking mids and 2 centre backs. I went for Lucas Piquette, who just left. Did he just leave AC Milan? He's at Lyon now, isn't he? I believe.
Yeah, correct.
I believe he's at Lyon. I'm pretty sure, because he is on absolute fire right now. I mean, he's some of the stuff he's doing is it's absolute. Yeah, of course he's at Lyon. He's absolutely killing it. He's also a goal scoring midfielder, but he's got a great eye for a pass as well. And I mean, I love his celebration. I just love everything about him. I just think he brings a great vibe. He brings that vibe of Brazilian football like we used to see. And I think that he again is a creative player who sees the pass before the pass. I've just seen Dark Sun G put another person who was on my list for sort of an attacking player, and that's Hwang Hee-chan. But I think that he's going to go to Wolves, so I'm not really going to mention him. But again, Hwang Hee-chan for me, you could bring in Hwang Hee-chan and Kim Min-jae. That's like
Hwang Hee-chan is already at Wolves at the moment. He's just banging in braces.
So I think they will make that a permanent deal. I can't believe Jesse Marsch didn't want him at Leipzig. He obviously shipped him off to Leipzig from Salzburg, and now he shipped him off from Leipzig to Wolves. So yeah, that's another shout. But no, the 2 players that I singled out were Lucas Piquette and Christopher Nkunku. Nkunku's just, I think he's going to be one of the best players in the world very, very soon. And he's also extremely young as well. I mean, I think he's no older than 22, I believe he is. So
yeah, no, you're right.
He's 23 years old, so he's got a lot of time to get better as well.
Yeah, that big boss man, big yourself up. Welcome. Thank you for joining us as always. Thank you for all the support on both channels as well. Derek Hutchinson saying, sell Kane and Ali to Newcastle, bring in Watkins and Vlahovic, and then get St. Maximin as part of the Kane and Ali deal. I would just say all of that sounds delicious, especially Watkins and Vlahovic, 2 degree, very good hold-up play strikers. I think Watkins' hold-up play is just so underrated at times because he works so hard. His strength is even really underrated as well, Ollie Watkins. He's a very strong guy. He knows how to run into the channels, just do kind of the unselfish work, you might say, as a striker. And then Vlahovic, again, it seems like he's been rumored with Spurs, and if he really wants to maybe get a lot of playing time and also take the Premier League by storm, I think he should make that move to Spurs. I think maybe something like I don't want him to maybe, like I say, follow in the steps of Jovetic and make that too big of a step, like Jovetic did, where Jovetic went to Man City and just kind of saw his career just kind of take a bit of a halt ever since. And I don't want Vlahovic to do that. I want Vlahovic to go to a place where he knows he's going to be guaranteed playing time. And I think that would be at Spurs. And then St. Maximin, I mean, to be honest, he's always been one of my favorite players. Secretly,
I don't think he's going. I think that's going to be the crown jewel of that new Newcastle sort of.
Yeah, that's right. Project. It's hard to get him away.
He's a
ticket seller. He is 100%. A ticket seller.
That's the perfect word to choose for him. He is a ticket seller.
Would you say with St. Maximin too, though, as well? Though he's kind of. He was the ticket seller and just the skills, but now he's making up for it in the output because he plays for a horrible Newcastle side right now, and he's putting in, assists to goals to everything. I mean, there's something about the guy where I think he's actually, to a degree, kind of coming into his own for a very bad team. So I think that only speaks to his skill.
It's almost like he has to basically bring the ball up from past the halfway line all the way to the other side of the goal and then try and create a chance. I don't know how people do it. Like him and Traore, I understand that maybe Traore and him don't score and assist as much, but to actually have to constantly sprint and dribble that ball past 5 players to then just be able to create a chance. If you put them
asking a lot.
Do you know what I mean? If you put them 20 yards up the pitch and you have a bunch of players behind them that can do that for them, and you save them all that energy to just basically beat their defenders 1v1, you're going to see, I think you'll see that output increase. So I think it's because of the teams that they're in that they're probably not scoring as much. And if obviously they're not, because people forget, like sprinting up and down the pitch for 90 minutes is very, very, very hard. And if you can sort of prevent 20 yards of that sprinting by having, your team create the chances or your team build the play up, and then, you give it to St. Maximin near the box and all he has to do is, beat 1 or 2 players and then put it in the box. He'll be able to do that for a lot longer in a game. So I just think that it's just the teams that they play for that make it difficult for them to sort of you see the best of them. You know what I mean?
Good insight. I think that's actually really accurate. That's why I kind of don't like it when, as much as Traore can be a bit frustrating, I just think exactly what you were saying is like, is it really like you do need someone, and it's an underrated skill, somebody that can just take on 7 players at once and just get the ball all the way up the pitch with his own 2 legs, doesn't even need to pass it to do it. And then all he needs is just someone who he can square it to. You know, I would just say Traore just play it on the floor a bit more, don't play it in the air, you know, because clearly he likes to hit it over people's heads. But you know, it's not like you need him to also finish. It's not like you need him to also, you know, be a great finisher. Like he already does plenty with, you know, creating chances. And St. Maximin, to a degree, is now kind of coming through with the finishing now. So they're almost, I just think they're both, I love watching them. I think they're fantastic. 100%. Great for the neutral. Dark Sun G saying, in the summer, I want Kim Min-jae, Nicholas Zula, and then I think also Ruben Neves, he says, and then Jang Woo-young. I believe, do correct me, Dark Sun G, is Jang Woo-young that, what is it? The Freiburg? Is he the Freiburg player? Do let me know, though. Maybe I'm mistaken. If that's the one, then I do absolutely rate him. I think he is a great player. Lee Dong-kyung, who plays at the K-League, who is a rising prospect, in my opinion, as a cam. That's a good shout. He is not afraid to get stuck in and take a shot. Yeah, I'd like to see that. That means he's a hard worker, Dark Sun G. I like the Nicholas Zula signing, especially because he is, you know, an up and coming kind of a center half still. It's just the injuries, as well as Bayern, maybe to a degree, maybe just kind of grew a bit impatient with him. So I would say we would be happy to take Bayern's rejects. I'd be happy to take Bayern's rejects. We've already had that with Højbjerg, and look how that turned out. So, you know, it's again, you know, the Bayern Academy, like the PSG Academy, you know, with Nkunku, is certainly players that, you know, really we should be taking a look at. And then Kim,
it's where they'll make their money now, isn't it? Especially PSG. I mean, PSG, their academy is producing a lot of underrated talent. I mean, Diaby's another one of them that went under the radar, and he's another one who I think you could probably get Diaby for a decent price now before his stock goes up as well, because Wirtz is obviously the golden boy at Leverkusen, and Patrick Schick is on fire at Leverkusen at the moment. But Diaby is another one who's just, I think, Diaby could do some real good things. And again, if you don't sort of get these players now, they will just go to these big clubs, and you're not going to pay 100 million for them at the end of the day. So.
These are all great shout outs. Also, the Flat Cap Army is well versed in some of this. And I think Nick Pope and Sam Johnston would also be good. That'd also be fantastic backup goalkeepers to a degree, you know, also maybe replacements for Lloris, you might say as well. You know, Jameson, I think you're right. I'm a bit concerned with how Kamada, you know, hasn't really come up with anything so far. But last season, he didn't score too many goals. He really was more kind of a creator, more of an assist man. And I just think the reason why is just because the rest of his team is just pretty garbage now, I would say, Jameson. It's not really his fault. You know, it's even kind of to a degree like kind of the debate that I had with, you know, Alex last night, where you can't ask too much of one player. It is just one player at the end of the day, you know, and he's doing his best. But Oriolan, Tchouameni, I mean, this guy is to a degree, he's being linked with the, you know, the best of clubs. So if we were to be able to steal him away, that would be fantastic. But he's being linked with the best of clubs at the moment. But to move on to my second one, and this is going to be kind of, you know, again, a bit familiar to a lot of people that have seen the scout reports. It is basically my new favorite player. He is my new favorite player. It is, you know, I have the hipster shout outs, and this is definitely one. And it's Kavica. I'm going to try it again. Kvaratskhelia, I believe. He's just sensational. Like, he to a degree would be like St. Maximin without the pace. You might say he's almost kind of Zidane-esque in the way that he doesn't need pace to beat his man. He's just the guy just megs people for fun. Like, he really does. And again, he's only 20 years old. He has so much ahead of him. And I do think, you know, after this season, so I've been reading, he's desperate to move. Like, he's just desperate to move and wants that big step up. And he plays kind of a left wing kind of number 10 role as well. He can kind of play in the middle. I just feel like he just would be sensational. The guy is just stupid with some of the techers that he has, some of the things that he goes for. His close control is almost Messi-like. It just stays glued to his foot, like actually glued to his foot. I'm almost kind of maybe thinking there's something going on with those boots that he has. And as well, I would just say, again, the guy is perfectly capable of taking that step up to the Premier League if they allow him to express himself in the way that he does, because he is a real skiller. And I just think, he'd be a ticket seller to a degree, this guy. And maybe the only problem with him is just his name, to a degrry, is not, it doesn't really roll off the
I'm
tongue.
not
It
getting
really
him on the
doesn't.
back of my shirt. That's all I'm saying if he joins, because that's going to cost a lot of money in England.
He'd probably be too happy with that one. He would not be. But I mean, you don't have to say that you've heard of this guy, Darius, but what would be maybe your kind of, let's say, another maybe forward line kind of playmaker, kind of maybe player that you would go for?
Well, I actually have, and I actually was obsessed with this guy over summer because we were close, or he was linked to us, and he is ridiculous. Like Rubin Kazan, I think it's a Rubin Kazan, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
There's obviously levels, and I think he 34 dribbles, was it 34 dribbles in one game? He broke the record. I think he got 18, and then like the next week or the week after, he got 34 dribbles. Like put like brain process in that 34
That's
dribbles
basically
in
skinning
one
the
game.
entire team 3 times.
Traore gets on average about maybe 6 or 7 dribbles a game. So to get 34 dribbles in a game is, I think Traore got 10 or 11 against us. 34 dribbles in one game. That is stupid. I think he could easily get into a Premier League team, and I think we should have him. I think we should take him. I think left wing, right wing, his long range shooting is just his shooting in general. His shooting technique is excellent. He's got a great long shot. He's always seeming to find sort of the bottom corner of his shooting as well. So I'm all for this, mate. Honestly,
do you feel like also as well? I kind of said this where it's a bit similar to Brian Hill, where it's like people kind of, slammed Brian Hill because they're saying, oh, he's playing for a relegation side, things like that. And like, I feel like it's just one of those cases, Darius, where I don't know about you. It's like, there's only so much a guy can accomplish by the age of 20 years old. There's only so much that a guy can do, as well as his case, him being a Georgian international, kind of makes sense that he would make that move to the Russian Premier League. It's obviously, maybe geopolitically, kind of makes sense that, he'd be maybe a bit more comfortable there. But as well, he's already kind of like Brian Hill is now just realizing, I'm almost too good for, this level. I need to make that move to another level. And I think like you were saying, I personally think he could make that step up. And I didn't even know about the dribbles. I'm not surprised. Like I said, the guy is.
If I can, I'll find the officials. I know it's in its 30s, mate, but
it's like sickly what he goes. It's actually just, I would say it's really rude. What you might say, what he goes for, some of the things that he tries to do to players. It's really is like there's something like he must get some sick thrill out of it or something like that. Because what he goes for on players is just ridiculous. Like, and again, I know the Russian Premier League is not maybe the highest level of defending, but at the same time, if you watch his highlights with what he still does to these, again, professional defenders, like it's just a little bit crazy. It is a little bit crazy. And I would say just for the wow factor, I would love to have that guy. He's personally now become practically my new favorite player. I even horribly turned on at one point just to watch him play during the international break, Georgia versus Greece. And I do not recommend that match, but just to see him, that's how much I love the guy. But, I feel like, Darius, maybe I can move on to my next one, unless,
yes,
again, maybe
please do.
Let's do it.
I love, by the way, I'm so happy that you chose Kamada and Kvaratskhelia. That they're two of my
That's a better one. That's a better pronunciation.
They're two of my like favorite sort of underrated players. And I'll admit, I didn't know about Kvaratskhelia before we were linked with him in the summer, but Kamada's been fantastic. I mean, Kamada's amazing. And both of these players, sort of the price that you can get them at, I mean, let's just do what Chelsea do. Just hoard the best players, and even if you don't play them, sell them for double the price anyway. So
the only way I learned about him too is, we were linked with him, of course, but then, my barber, who's Uzbekistani, said, I saw that your team is linked with this guy. So he just said he even really highly rated him as well. So, just again, it's only good news with this guy. This one is going to be an outside shout, because a lot of people know that we maybe need a left back, considering that Sessegnon, he hasn't necessarily cut it yet, and he's not really, an out and out, left back. Some people to this day are still very frustrated with Reguilón. I mean, to each their own in their opinion. I think Reguilón has been doing quite decently, quite well this season. But some people aren't yet convinced by him, and I think that's completely fine to not be convinced by Reguilón yet. And so that's why I feel like we also have to be considerate of kind of the annoying, homegrown, kind of quota that you have to meet all the time. So that's why with this one, I'm going to go for a bit of a young signing. And Tyrek Mitchell, I haven't necessarily seen so much that, maybe just gets me off my seat or gets me, very wowed by him. But at the same time, I think he's held his own defensively this season. I actually really rate his defensive skills. I think he could improve going forward, but he's very good at least getting up and down the pitch, which I think is it's always a good quality, of course, in a fullback, and that's what all fullbacks need at this rate. But Tyrek Mitchell, I just feel like if we wanted to meet that homegrown quota and be able to bring in someone to, compete with Reggie, maybe more than Sessegnon or Ben Davies can, I'm going to go for him. He's valued at 10.8 million. I don't see us getting him for that price. It'd probably be around 20 million pounds, maybe even a bit more. But yeah, to meet that homegrown quota, to meet that left back, I'm going to go for Tyrek Mitchell to compete with Reguilon.
I love this shout because I think he's a great little player. I don't think we'll get him. I think they'll want him to be in that new Crystal. I think that Crystal Palace team is hard to find.
It was hard to find also a homegrown player to go for.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't looking at left back because I really do still hold hope for Sessegnon and Reguilon as the two choices. But
as you should.
Defensively, Tyrek Mitchell is very good, and I think he's probably better than Sessegnon. And maybe you do need a more defensive and a more attacking left back choice. But I'm really impressed by this choice. I think he would be a really good option, and he is English, isn't he? So it would be it'd be a homegrown player as well. I mean, I went for centre backs. I mean, I still think, and I've been preaching this for a while, we've got, in my opinion, a world class centre back now in Christian Romero, who every time I watch Romero play Argentina or Tottenham, I'm mind blown by his ability.
He's already almost leading the team in aerial duels as well. After one match, 2 matches as well. He's only lost one aerial duel as well.
Absolutely ridiculous. Like, he is a world class centre back. I don't care what anybody says. And if we want to sort of be serious about what we can do, then we have to go and get another one. So, and it may not be a world class centre back, but either they have to be, in my opinion, Premier League proven or potential to be a world-class centre-back. So I had two options. I'll obviously give one and then I'll give another. But my first option for the Premier League player, and this is, again, situational because this player goes, I think his contract runs out in the summer, is James Tarkowski at Burnley.
James Tarkowski.
I think James Tarkowski at Burnley would be probably the most smart decision we could make in terms of a centre-back that we can sign, because I think that he's an absolutely amazing centre-back. And I think that as an England player who you can get on a free, basically in his prime for a centre-back at 29, 30 years old, the wages aren't going to be that, astronomical, because at Burnley, I don't think they're spending much. His wages can't be that high at Burnley. So I just think that James Tarkowski as a partner for sort of maybe Romero, maybe Rodon, you ship out, I don't know, Dyer or Sanchez. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that Dyer's had a bad season. I'm not saying Sanchez has had a bad season at all. I'm not saying Rodon has had a bad season, even though he's barely played. But I do think James Tarkowski is an upgrade on all of those players, in my opinion. And if you partnered him with Romero, I know that's not a very fast.
No, that's just stuck in.
It's not a very fast partnership, but Romero's like slightly fast. I think he's actually a lot quicker than people make out to be. I think those two, you'd never get past them. I honestly think you'd never get past those two as a centre-back partnership. So I think
they might even get in each other's way, you would say. That's
winning headers. I mean, they want to win every single header. They'd probably literally be challenging, like you said, challenging each other for headers. So, and I'm all here for that. I don't care. You can butt heads. I don't care. As long as those balls out of our area, then I don't care. But yeah, I think that James Tarkowski is a good option for us as a centre back. And maybe in terms of a left back, I'm just thinking now, just off the top of my head, like a left back choice. The two in my head, if I'm thinking like because I always think like realistic and unrealistic. Realistically, Mitchell Bakker, who was at PSG, who just went to Leverkusen.
Almost went for that
instead. Did you almost go?
Great shout.
I think it was Man City last season, Champions League. I believe that was the game he played where he was on. I mean, the whole PSG team in that first leg were amazing, but he was particularly stood out for me. I mean, I think Leverkusen got a bit of a snip there, but I still think Leverkusen are such a selling club. They will sell players so cheap. I mean, I don't think that it would be hard to get him out. So Mitchell Bakker for me would be the realistic choice. The unrealistic choice, Theo Hernandez. Theo Hernandez for me he's my favorite left back in the world at the moment in terms of like, you've got the standard left backs like your Robertsons and those sorts of left backs who everybody is. Alphonso Davies, everybody rates him, but Theo Hernandez, I think, is just as good as those players. I really do think that he could be a starting left back for Manchester City. He could be a starting left back for Liverpool. He could be a starting left back for Chelsea. I think he's better than Chilwell and Alonso. So I think Theo Hernandez and Sergio Reguilon as a double, that would be like the dream. But I think Mitchell back would be more realistic. So they were my left back choices, if you think.
Oh,
But James Tarkowski is my centre back choice.
beautiful choices. Those
Thank
are
you, thank
beautiful
you.
choices. Teo Hernandez, I would just say, I agree with you entirely. I think he's actually practically already the best left back / left wing back
These are
in the world.
ridiculous.
To a degree, I feel like maybe the I would say the left back version of Hakimi, because Hakimi's already now been rated as like the upper echelon
Hakimi,
of right
Hakimi
backs.
is
I would
like,
say
yeah.
Teo is just on the
I
other
put
side.
Hakimi, I agree with you on that. I think I put Hakimi in that. Like Hakimi for me is like I think Hakimi's best right back in the world. I don't care what anybody says. He's a freak, Hakimi. I think he will be sort of like, you have those era defining players or sort of position defining players like Makelele's and sort of Dani Alves's and stuff like that. Hakimi, I think, has taken that attacking right back thing and just gone 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% more. He's unbelievable. So yeah, I'm all here for that.
Love to see that, and honestly love that you agree with that. And Teo Hernandez and Tyrell Malacia is someone that has been recommended to me multiple times by Cuba99. And Cuba, I have to apologize, I haven't gotten to him yet in terms of my scout reports, but I will, and I promise you. And I think it's supposed to be a fantastic shout. Cuba says so it's supposed to be kind of a bit of a sleeper one. And that's what we've been going for, is a bit some of those sleeper ones, as Darius put perfectly. You have your realistic ones, and then you have your unrealistic ones. And you also have to dream a bit. But I am going to now move on. Did you have another center back, though, maybe before that you wanted to
sign? This will be probably my last one. So I'll give you it. I'll probably give you it. And you know what? You're going to love this, because I think we have spoken about this player before. But if I'm going to go for a center back that could grow into their role, and I think when I chose Tarkowski, I thought as an upgrade on Dyer, and then this guy was my upgrade on Sanchez. I think Edmund Tapsoba would be probably one of the best choices for a centre back that we could probably get, like realistically get, if you know what I mean. And when I say realistically, I still think he's probably destined for a bigger club or a super club. But Edmund Tapsoba is an absolutely amazing centre. I mean, him and Romero as a centre back partnership would be perfect. I think
it's Tapsoba for you. I feel like, maybe to take your words again, he's one of those players that you maybe said perfectly, where I don't really know what he does wrong. Like, I don't really know what weaknesses he has in his game, Tapsoba.
And I so agree with you, because it's like, and I know I got this from, you mentioned this when we were talking about him before. You said that it's more sort of Peter Bosch that was making those players or that defensive line look worse than they were, because when you play a line as high as he does when Leverkusen were under him last season, it's impossible to not concede goals, and he still looked good, like you said. And that's when when you said that, I was like, I thought the exact same thing. And I thought, if he looks good under Peter Bosch and this Leverkusen team, put him with a decent sort of defensive minded manager, and I mean, what is going to get past him? And he's 23, I think he is. So I mean, he's not even near like his prime. So as long as
actually the best passing center back, I believe, in Europe's top 5 leagues last season as well. One of the best distributors. But yeah, I mean, you're on a roll.
For me, that would be like Tarkowski. If we got Tarkowski on a free, Tapsoba, and then, like you said, a right winger, I want us to go for Vlahovic. I think that should be like the marquee signing for the summer. That for me is the marquee signing. But then again, if we can get some of these players, I think we're going to be honestly more than fine than sort of the situation says, because I know everybody's scared about Newcastle and you've got your big 4 clubs anyway, but you've got to be realistic. Like, you sort of have to shop in markets that we know that we can attract players, but also the bigger teams aren't going to look at and think, yeah, let's take that risk. We have to be the team to take the risk. And you know what? Most likely the risk will pay off if you do your research on the players, I think.
Yeah, we have to think smarter, not harder. At the end of the day, we do have to 100%. Think smarter, not harder. Tato, who is actually found my Kavicha scout report, is a huge advocate for him as a big talent out of Georgia. So thank you so much for that support there. And he really does want to see Kavicha come into this side. He says we absolutely need him, and I totally agree. Par Miguel Escobedo Sanconza from Aston Villa would not be that'd be a really good one, especially we know he would want
He's
to
English
play
as
for
well,
Spurs.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's English, homegrown, wants to play for Spurs. So we've been told it's actually his, the club that he grew up with as a kid. Golden Cock saying, what about Zagadou? He's a beast and a left-footed. I think with Zagadou, to a degree, it's just been the injury troubles and whatnot.
And
that's the only problem, Golden Cock. I think he has everything going for him, but maybe that Edmund Tapsoba, kind of pick, I think would just be definitely a little bit above that Golden Cock, just because, with Zagadou, it's unfortunate. Like, the guy's just constantly on the operating table. So
just literally getting back from injury as we speak. I mean, everything you said about that was so true. It's so sad to see, because like I said, I watch as much Dortmund as I possibly can, and he is so good, but he barely plays. He just doesn't play, and you can't drop sort of that money on centre backs who aren't going to play, because your centre back has to be playing 30 games minimum, in my opinion, in a season. So
last one then here, and it is going to be free signing, and it is going to be Sardar Azmoun for me. This is going to be the guy. His contract expires in 2022. I know Dark Sun G, I know Para Miguel Escobardo want to see this one. I really think if we don't get Dusan Vlahovic, I want Dusan Vlahovic more than this guy. But if we don't get Dusan, we can sign this guy on a free, and I think we should just wrap it up. Honestly, even try to get Dusan and him, if you ask me, because Sardar Azmoun, I think what I might give a bit of insight. What I really love about him is that he's a tall striker. I think he stands at around 6'1", or around like 1.82 meters, I believe. And then as well, he is he can kind of play alongside another striker practically better than anyone. He's played alongside that guy Artem Dzyuba, who's that Soviet era like striker. And I really think Sardar Azmoun can not only play by himself up front, but can also play alongside another striker. And he's a lot pacier than he looks. He's actually, to a degree, his athleticism, I think, is what maybe helps him out a lot. He's also a former volleyball player. His dad, I believe, was a huge volleyball player, which actually then maybe makes sense why his aerial ability is so strong. He's really dangerous in the air. This guy can actually leap for it, and also has fantastic finishing ability. If you looked at his goal record actually in Russia, I think in 4 seasons with Zenit, it was something like, I think in 90 games, I believe it was something like 55 goals or something like that, and 13 assists, which to a degree I don't think should be sniffed at, because I think that does speak to the fact that he's actually done quite well. And I've weirdly seen a lot of him. I've just randomly seen a lot of him, and ever since I've watched him, I've always loved him. And now that I'm finding out he's going to be potentially coming in on a free, I feel like this would be a brilliant signing. I know he doesn't want to sign another contract with Zenit, so I think we go for this guy. I mean, Sardar Azmoun, a total beast, and a brilliant backup striker. And so really, I'd like to sign him in January. I'm a bit impatient, but if we were being a bit smarter about it, I think we just seal up that free transfer for him.
Well, you know who's the king of free transfers, don't you? We have him at the helm right now. So if ever this is going to happen, mate, it's going to happen in January. And you know what? I am not as clued up on him. I have to say it was you who has been pushing Sardar Azmoun on me, and I've done a bit of research, and I have to, everything you said there, I agree with. I think it's specifically the aerial ability, because he's not overly tall. Obviously 6'1" is pretty tall for a striker, but you can clearly see that he's kind of like Romero, because Romero is 6'1" as well, and his aerial ability is just, it's levels, isn't it? So I agree with you. I think that bringing him in on a free, and then, like you said, bringing in Vlahovic as well.
I would rather have Vlahovic, but if we didn't get him, this would be the guy I'd go for.
Like I said, Dusan Vlahovic for me is the closest, and I said this to many times, closest to Harry Kane, in my opinion, player ability wise and skill set wise, that you're going to probably find on the market. And he's also scoring 21 goals in the Serie A last season at 21 years old. So, or 17 goals at 21 years old, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, both of those players we should be looking at. I mean, will that happen? I don't know, but definitely Sardar Azmoun, I think would probably be more of a realistic option than Dusan. So maybe that's actually going to happen, and hopefully it does, because in my opinion, if you're in 4 competitions, you probably, if you class in Son as a left wing striker, and if Kane goes, let's say he does go, you're probably going to need to bring in 2 or 3 strikers. So.
Actually, maybe get them both then, Sardar and Dusan.
That's what I'm thinking.
What do you think of this? And I love that he's saying this. He says Azmoun and Son, and from the gigantic continent, he's saying from all those countries that we can think of as well. Actually, Asia's top 2 forwards, he says.
Wow, that's interesting.
So that's very highly rated.
Would you say that Azmoun is better than Hwang Hee-chan?
I think they're different players, but yes, I would say. Hwang Hee-chan, though, at the same time, though, I think is unique in that he He reminds me of a better Timo Werner, maybe to a degree,
I
where
100%
he
agree.
can
That's
run down
yeah,
the channels really well. He's really, really pacey,
great
Wang
crosser.
Hee-chan, and he has very clever finishing ability. But in the case of Osmoon, it's just, I think it's more of that, the fact that he's just a taller striker, bigger striker. He also has very good techers, where I would not necessarily say that with Wang Hee-chan. But then again, Wang Hee-chan has already embarrassed a few players so far in the Premier League with a few heel chops and whatnot. But Osmoon, I would say you get the aerial ability. He's a lot pacier than he looks. And then as well, he's kind of, to a degree, probably quite hungry, to make that step up. And I think that would only, speak volumes to the guy. And I think he, to a degree, from what I've researched, he's dealt with a lot of adversity. I think he's, someone that I feel like could, be able to, we're looking for players as well that know what it means to fight for the badge, know what it means to, to sacrifice themselves for the fans, for the club. And I think he certainly comes off as one of those guys who's very, very serious. He seems very determined as well. But I mean, that's going to be wrapping it up, I would say, unless Darius, you have any final words, final signings, maybe to.
Oh gosh, can we sign Tommy Yasu from Arsenal, please? That's all I'll say.
just take him away.
Just
He already
take him
wanted
from
to come
Arsenal.
to us first.
Let's do a reverse Sol Campbell if it's even possible. But yeah, apart from that, I've had a great time. There's a couple players that I'm definitely going to be checking out and doing a bit more research on. I'm probably going to watch my daily compilation of Kvaratskhelia doing his ridiculous dribbling skills that need to get my fix. So yeah, there's a lot of things I can take away from this, and thank you very much for having me. And obviously, this is one of my favorite channels with, like I said, the best intro in YouTube history. So I would love to be on here, and you will see me on here very, very soon, guys. So thank you everyone who was commenting and everything. It's been great fun. It's been great fun.
And as always, if you already know, but Darius is on Paxton Road, and I do have the link in the description down below, everybody. I'm pretty sure I can recognize a lot of these people are, subscribed already to Paxton
definitely.
Road. But if anybody who's, been under that rock, and I would say, let me lift it for you and just show you the channel. So there it is in the description below. But that'll be all for now, guys. You can go back in and just see which ones I signed in January, which ones I signed in the summer. I'm kind of proud of all of them. I think Darius definitely, as always, really knows how to also bring in the right type of signings as well. But again, guys, I think that'll be all. Do let us know if we missed any in the comments below if you're watching this after the live show. But come on, you Spurs, and we'll be seeing you.